That morning, I was just a cargo pilot with a half-broken ship, a lukewarm cup of synth coffee, and a navigation console that flickered like it had a personality disorder. My route was simple: hop through a quiet fringe corridor, deliver medical supplies to an outpost no one cared about, and get paid enough credits to keep my ship flying another month. Simple plans never survive contact with deep space. The anomaly appeared without warning, a shimmering distortion like heat rising off desert sand, except this desert was vacuum and radiation. My sensors screamed. My ship lurched. Stars stretched into white scars as the emergency jump engaged on its own. When the universe snapped back into focus, I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I drifted in an uncharted system, surrounded by the soft glow of a pale blue star. The NAV computer refused to identify the location. No transponder signals. No known lanes. Just silence. And then a distress beacon. I almost ignored it. Fringe space was infamous for traps, pirate lures, and worse. But the signal wasn't human. The waveform was unfamiliar, layered with harmonics my system struggled to parse. Whoever, or whatever, was broadcasting it was genuinely lost. I sighed, muttered something unflattering about my survival instincts, and followed the signal. I found her on the third planet. The atmosphere was breathable, but heavy with violet-tinted clouds. I sat down near a rocky plain dotted with crystalline growths that chimed softly in the wind. My scanners pinpointed the beacon near a shallow ravine. She stood there alone. She was tall, taller than any human woman, with pale silver skin that reflected the light like moonstone. Her eyes were large, faceted, and a deep shade of indigo that seemed to drink in the world. She wore a sleek, damaged environment suit marked with symbols I didn't recognize, and her posture radiated a mixture of exhaustion and stubborn pride. When she saw my ship, she froze. When she saw me, helmet off, clearly human, her eyes widened in shock. "You are not on the registry," she said, her voice musical but edged with alarm. Somehow, my translator caught up quickly, converting her speech into galactic standard. "Funny," I replied, raising my hand slowly. I was about to say the same thing. She hesitated, then lowered herself into a guarded stance. "This system is restricted." I was on a sanctioned exploration route. "Yeah," I said dryly, glancing at my NAV screen on my wrist. "Well, your sanctioned route is about 12 jumps off any map I've ever seen." Her shoulders sagged. Just a little. Enough to tell me everything. She was lost. Her name, once the tension eased, was Salith of the Karuan Accord, a xenocartographer tasked with mapping unstable hyperspace eddies. A scientist. Not a soldier. Not a diplomat. And definitely not someone trained to survive alone on an alien world after her ship catastrophically failed. "My vessel was consumed," she said carefully. "A corridor collapse. I escaped via pod. I have been here for 11 planetary cycles." I whistled softly. That's a long time to be stranded. She studied me with curiosity, now outweighing fear. "You're a pilot. A lone one. Why would you answer a foreign distress call?" I shrugged. "Because I'm human." She didn't seem to understand that answer at all. The first day, she barely spoke. She watched me repair my ship's scorched hull, cataloged every tool I used, and asked precise, relentless questions. Humans fascinated her, not as a concept, but as a contradiction. "You are alone," she said as we shared a ration bar by my ship. "Yet you approach danger without backup. Your species is classified as cooperative, but statistically reckless." "Both can be true," I said, smiling. At night, the planet's twin moons bathed the plains in blue and gold. Salith sat nearby, staring at the sky with an expression that twisted my chest. "My people value preparation above all else," she said quietly. "We chart every probability. We avoid unknowns." "And yet," I replied, "you chose to explore unstable hyperspace." She looked at me. "Because someone must." That was the moment I realized we weren't so different. Fixing my ship took 3 days. During that time, we talked about our worlds, our cultures, our assumptions about the galaxy. She told me humans had a reputation: adaptable, emotionally volatile, dangerously persistent. "We do not understand how you survive," she admitted. "Your technology is inelegant. Your ships lack redundancies considered essential by most spacefaring species." "Yeah," I said, patting my ship affectionately. "But they're tough. Like us." On the 4th day, the sky changed. My sensors spiked with energy readings that made my stomach drop. Someone else had found the system. 3 ships emerged from hyperspace, angular and predatory. Pirate configuration. Not scavengers, hunters. Salith recognized them instantly. "The Varkesh Syndicate," she whispered. "They raid lost systems for survivors and salvage." "Slavers?" I asked. She nodded once. That settled it. I powered up my ship, cursing its limitations. I was one pilot in a freighter with a couple of outdated cannons. They were 3 ships built for combat. Salith watched me, confusion and disbelief flickering across her features. "You cannot engage them. Survival probability is negligible." "Maybe," I said, "but I'm not leaving you here." Her eyes widened. "You would risk death for a stranger? For an alien?" I met her gaze. "You're not cargo." The pirates descended fast, broadcasting demands I had no intention of answering. I lifted off, drawing their attention away from the ravine. Plasma fire lit the sky. My shield screamed. I pushed my ship harder than I ever had, flying low through the planet's atmosphere, using the terrain to break their firing solutions. Salith's voice came through my comm, steady despite the chaos. "If you angle toward the crystal fields, their sensors will scatter. The mineral density interferes with targeting arrays." I grinned. "See? Teamwork." We danced through the crystal plains as beams scorched the ground behind us. One pirate clipped a spire and spiraled out of control. Another broke off pursuit, unwilling to risk hull damage. The last one stayed on me. I did the only thing I could. I turned around and rammed him. My ship screamed in protest. Metal tore. Systems failed. But the pirate ship took the brunt of the impact, exploding in a blossom of fire and debris. I crash-landed a mile from my original position, unconscious. When I woke, the first thing I saw was Salith. She had dragged me from the wreckage. Set broken bones. Rerouted emergency power to keep my ship from exploding. She had done everything she could, despite limited knowledge of human physiology. "You are awake," she said softly, relief washing over her features. "Guess so," I croaked. "Did we win?" She nodded. "They retreated. You saved me." I tried to sit up and failed. "Guess we're even." We were stranded again, my ship beyond quick repair, but this time, we weren't alone. Over the next weeks, we worked together. She learned human improvisation. I learned Kuruan precision. We turned the wreck into a functioning beacon, boosting its signal far beyond the planet. During those long nights, something shifted between us. Trust, yes. Respect. But also something deeper, a recognition that the universe was vast and uncaring, and yet connection was still possible within it. When rescue finally came, it wasn't pirates. It was a Kuruan exploration fleet, drawn by the enhanced beacon and corroborated by human trade sensors that picked up my distress ping. The Kruan officers were stunned. A human pilot. Alone. Surviving. Fighting pirates. Protecting one of their own. Salith stood before her superiors, spine straight. This human acted with courage beyond probability models. Without him, I would not stand here. They turned to me with a mix of awe and caution. You defy classification, one said. I shrugged. Happens a lot. They offered Salith passage home. They offered me compensation, repairs, even a formal commendation within the accord. I accepted the repairs. But Salith hesitated. She looked at me, then back at her people. I wished to continue my work alongside him. The silence was profound. Eventually, permission was granted, tentative, conditional, and historic. Months later, my ship flew again, upgraded with Kruan tech, and still held together by human stubbornness. Salith stood beside me in the cockpit, her eyes no longer filled with fear of the unknown, but wonder. Together, we charted lost systems, rescued stranded crews, fought pirates who learned, too late, that humans didn't abandon allies. Stories spread of an alien woman who got lost and found a human pilot instead. Among the stars, new legends formed, not of conquest, but of cooperation, of a species that charged into danger not because it calculated success, but because someone needed help. And somewhere in the data archives of 100 civilizations, a simple note was added to humanity's profile. When humans find you lost in the dark, they will not ask if you are worth saving. They will simply try. Years later, when the charts were full and the once blank regions of space had names, I sometimes thought back to that unmarked system, the blue star, the chiming crystals, and the alien woman standing alone beneath a foreign sky. Salith never did return to being just a cartographer. She became something new, a bridge. Together, we flew where NAV computers refused to plot, where probability engines spat out red warnings and polite civilizations said no one goes there anymore. We went anyway, not because it was safe, but because someone might be waiting. A stranded freighter crew once asked me why humans kept showing up in the worst places in the galaxy. I looked at Salith then, at the calm confidence in her indigo eyes, at the way she no longer feared being lost. Because, I said, the worst places are where people get left behind. The legends grew. Among pirates, humans became bad luck. Among explorers, we became a last hope. Among empires, we became a variable that could not be neatly calculated. And among the Kruan, Salith's people recorded a quiet truth in their archives. That the first human they truly understood was not a conqueror, a diplomat, or a general. He was a pilot with a broken ship who answered a distress call he didn't have to. Out there, beyond mapped space, the stars still hide their secrets. But now, when an alien woman gets lost in the dark, she knows a human might come looking.